Could I have your attention, please? If everybody wants to take your seat, we will start the program. We have a lot to do, and we like short programs. Don't we, Jimmy? If you would like to all rise, we'll have Sheriff Mayer for the blessing for the meal tonight.
Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Dear Lord, we are thankful for this day and this great country that we live. And we're thankful at this time, the food that's been prepared, the food that we've had, and just all the hands that served you by serving us. And may we just glorify you in everything we do. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Okay, if you'll remain standing, we'll have Marcus Love from the Executive Committee do our Pledge of Allegiance, and Miss Maggie Nash, who's a senior at the Jackson Christian School, who will sing our national anthem.
If you would, please, let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fire o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Okay, you may be seated. I'd like to begin by recognizing our Executive Committee. If you're on the Executive Committee of the Madison County Republican Party, would you please stand? They've worked hard for this meal and for this event, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Especially, I want to thank Angie Byers, Kathy Blunt, and Dustin. Appreciate y'all so much. And a little house cleaning here. I do want everyone who is not a member of the Madison County Republican Party that lives here to please go back and see Tom Beeson. He is sitting back there waiting to take your $40. That is our annual membership dues. Also, we have some other things we sell to help the party. We have some caps that has Madison County GOP on the back and some car decals. I'd appreciate it if you would go back and get one. I'm very proud of mine, and I use them both all the time. First of all, as promised, I do want to recognize our Platinum Table sponsors. And if you will, please stand. We thank you so much for helping us. Congressman David Kustoff for Congress. Dr. George Flynn for Congress. Mr. Randy Boyd for Governor. Randy purchased 2 tables. Thank you, Randy. And Congressman Marsha Blackburn for Senate. Thank you very much. We sincerely appreciate y'all's generosity. As most of you know, this annual event occurs every year to raise money exclusively for the Madison County Republican Party. And as we always do every year, if you're an elected official of Madison County, would you please stand? An elected official of Madison County. Thank you so much. Now, if you are in the judiciary, please stand. We want to see our judges that are here today. Please stand. Anybody in the judiciary? And last but not least, the elected officials in the State House of Representatives and the Senate. Would you please stand? We have several here. Okay, our program is full tonight, so let's move to a special presentation. And our county attorney, Steve Maroney, will come up here as he presents an award.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I appreciate Mike for the great job he did. Putting this event together is not easy, and he's done a great job, and those who've supported him have done as well, and I'm really grateful to him for that. And yes, please applaud for Mike. This is a great crowd. It's a great room, and it's filled with Republicans, elected Republicans, Republican voters, Republican activists. It's great to see a room this big. And if you come to this dinner here in Madison County anyway, very often you hear us tell the story about the proverbial phone booth that we all used to meet in back in the early 90s, late 80s, when the Republican Party was not doing so strong here. And this was probably Democrat country. They would certainly have felt so. But things began to change in the 90s, and they began to change in large part due to the hard work of a lot of individuals, many of whom are in this room, who really laid the groundwork for what we have now, where we have a room filled with fabulous Republican representatives and officials. We now live in a district, in a community where Republicans dominate county offices. We are represented in the State House by Republicans, in Congress by Republicans, in the Senate, and our president is a Republican doing a great job. And we've always really believed the philosophy that you build the Republican Party from the courthouse to the White House. And as I said, many people played a role in getting that started here, and it wasn't easy. And maybe no one person did everything, but I'll tell you, nobody did as much as the person we're going to honor tonight. The recipient of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award, which is Madison County's Republican Party's highest award that we give out, is someone who's been really dedicated to the Republican cause, the conservative cause for many years, as a lifelong Republican and a lifelong resident of Jackson, Tennessee. Someone who has filled many offices on the Republican Party Executive Committee, who's been a chairman of the Madison County Republican Party, who's been honored as Statesman of the Year in this district by our state party, someone who's worked on more campaigns than I could ever begin to start listing, or we'd be here all night and I'd forget one. But someone who has really been selfless and really epitomizes what it means to just love the Madison County Republican Party and really to love this country. This person has been tireless in their efforts and is well deserving of the recognition that we're going to give tonight. And I'll just say, on a personal level, with regard to this individual, I remember a time about 20 years ago when I walked out of my law office, walked around the block, and went over to the Pythian building, which is where her law office was. And I said, I sat down and said to Genie Todd, Genie, how can I get involved with the Republican Party? And to ask Genie Todd how to get involved with the Republican Party is like asking a child at Christmas, or do you want to see the presents or not? I mean, she was thrilled. And that really epitomizes her attitude and the service that she's lent to this party for so many years. Later, when I had the chance to succeed her, not replace her as chairman, she was always a person who was willing to take a phone call or an email from me, give advice, sometimes just to be a good listener, and I really appreciate that. So without any further ado, I would like to ask to come to the stage this year's recipient of the Madison County Republican Party Lifetime Achievement Award, Ms. Genie Todd. You deserve it.
Thank you.
And I'm going to get out of the way and let her talk, but I want you to see we're presenting her this nice bust of Ronald Reagan, Ronaldus Magnus, and it has an inscription, if I can read it. To Genie Todd, with gratitude for a lifetime of service to the Madison County Republican Party.
This is such a surprise. I'm not ever surprised, but I am now. But anything I ever did for the Republican Party, I did because I couldn't help myself. In fact, my husband says because of my going to night law school and working years and years in the Republican Party, we've been married over 50 years. We've really only been married about 20 years. So I guess when I was in the 3rd grade, I read all those Patriot War Orange biographies. I fell in love with America. And to me, she is that shining city on the hill. And I believe we have a chance to take our country back. And the only way we're going to do it is with conservatism. So from the local to the state to the national, we have to work with our conservative principles if we're going to prevail as that shining city on the hill. There's a quote that I've been saying to people that I just learned from Churchill. You may have seen The Darkest Hour. It's the very end. And I had already learned that quote. And it said, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. So we have to continue with our conservative principles to succeed as America. And thank you all so very much. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And thank my family for putting up with me, my sweet family. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jimmy Eldridge, representative from the House District 73 and the former chairman of this great party here, and we've had great leadership before I came along and much better after they followed me. But it is good to be here, and we thank all of you. It's great to be in a room with all the great Republicans and all the candidates, and I'm glad to be here with several of my colleagues. And very quickly, we're going to limit each of the gubernatorial candidates, and I'll mention that in a minute, to 5 minutes. So they've asked me to keep my remarks to about an hour, so it won't take me real long. I've never seen a mic I didn't like, but it is good to, it's good to be here with my wife, Carolyn, but we have Senator John Stevens from the Senate. We have Senator Dolores Grisham from the State Senate. One of my and Senator Ed Jackson had to leave for another event he had to go to, and he's doing a good job in Nashville. And I see my good friend, Representative Andy Holt, who sits in front of me on the House floor. So it's good to be here with these colleagues, and this party has grown so much over the last several years, and we appreciate everybody's support. They've asked each of the gubernatorial candidates to speak no more than 5 minutes. We're not going to ring a bell, but there is somebody out there who will grab you by the leg, Randy, and pull you off the stage, or one of the other candidates. But we're going to ask you to go in alphabetical order, and that is Congressman Diane Black first, former ECDC Commissioner Randy Boyd second, Speaker Beth Harwell, Speaker of the House of Representatives third, Mr. Bill Lee next, and then Kay White drove all the way from East Tennessee. We just found that a little while ago, so we want her to speak in that same order. So at this time, we'd like to call on Congressman Black to get it started, and look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you tonight at the Madison County Republican Party. And Jeannie, congratulations to you. You certainly are very deserving. I was thinking it was going to be hard for you to carry that big head off of this stage. So congratulations to you. You really have worked very hard, and you certainly deserved it. Jimmy, thank you for having me up here on stage. And Mike, thank you for what you've done in getting this together. What a tremendous night this is. And before I start making my prepared remarks, I'd like to have anyone who has served in the military, let's recognize our veterans for what they've done. Would you please stand and allow us to give you recognition? Thank you. Thank you so much, and we appreciate so much your service to our country. Before I begin talking about why I want to be governor, and I believe that I would make a good governor, I want to talk a little bit about my history, my background, because it really does inform who I am and the way in which I operate today, and that I plan to operate as the governor of this great state. My Depression-era parents had no more than a 9th grade education. And we lived in public housing as a child, and until my father was able to get a really good job and to move us into the house that my parents still live in today, we lived on what some would have called the wrong side of the tracks. Even to this day, my parents' home at 92, they still live in, I remember going to high school and having some young girls, when I introduced myself, because I went to high school with a different group than I had gone through elementary and middle school with, that they said to me, "Oh, you live on the other side of the tracks." Now, that may make some people feel bad about it, but what I really thought was, I want to be more like they are. And what's important is that I had a counselor, a high school counselor, who saw something in me that I didn't even know in myself. And he took me by the arm and said, "You're going to go to college," because I'd always wanted to be a nurse. And he helped me to do well in school. Anytime I got a grade less than a B, I was in his office. And so Mr. Whiting was really the person that helped me to be standing where I am today. From Mr. Whiting, I learned high standards and high expectations. And from my parents, I learned you never give up. You always shoot for the stars, and my Christian values. And I carry that with me here today. I never intended on running for office. I'm an emergency room nurse. I was working in the hospital back in 1998 when I saw what TennCare was doing to our state in both the quality of care and the cost of care. And so I sought office for the first time at that point in time. I can tell you that I did pretty well. I not only liked what I did, but I found that there were a lot of bills that I was able to carry, especially in the healthcare arena. But the one that I am the most proud of is SJR 127, that most of you would recognize as the Yes on One. And I was able to carry that in the House, in the Senate, and then when I went off to Congress, it was finalized by that constitutional amendment. And for those of you who don't know about SJR 127, it restored the constitutional protections for women that choose abortion. And most importantly for me is it gave women an opportunity to be at least able to get information about that procedure before they made that decision. So I'm very proud of that. In Congress, I was elected in 2010, started serving in 2011, was put on the Ways and Means Committee and the Budget Committee, and this year I had the opportunity, the privilege of being asked to serve as the Budget Chair. Working with the President, we passed the most conservative budget we have passed in 20 years in the House. Unfortunately, the Senate did not follow suit, but I was very proud to work with the President in doing that. Also, as the Budget Chair, we had a second budget which led us to be able to do tax reform. I call that the golden key to tax reform. And again, working with the President, we have passed tax reform that really is going to make a difference for individuals, will We'll see wages rise. We'll see more money coming back in their pockets from the decrease in the amount of taxes that they owe, giving back their own money. We see businesses already growing and responding to that, and the economy growing. We think that there's going to be about an $1,100 benefit to individuals. And I know Nancy Pelosi calls that crumbs. Listen, I had been a single mother raising 3 children before I had an opportunity to marry my wonderful husband. And I can tell you, if you'd have given me an extra $1,100 in my pocket, it would not have been crumbs. So we know that this is going to help to grow our economy. It was a bold conservative policy that we passed, and we weren't too meek and we weren't too weak to get that done. But I didn't come here just to talk about Congress. I came here to talk about what I would do if I am privileged to serve as the next governor of this state. I love this state. My husband and I are not originally from this state. We all know we're doing pretty well. As a matter of fact, in Middle Tennessee, we see that things are growing really rapidly. But we have a problem with all of the places here in Tennessee growing. And what has really touched my heart, my district is about 50% rural, is that those rural areas are not doing as well as those more urban and suburban areas are doing. And so for them, they need a little extra help, and I believe that we should spread that prosperity around to all parts of this great state. And here are the 2 things that I've heard as I've traveled across the state that these rural areas need. One is that they need more broadband, because we all know now that the connectivity of the internet doesn't just mean that for luxury watching movies and so on. We need broadband to have economy, to have businesses come into our state and be able to have that connectivity so they can operate their businesses. The second thing that we hear from them is that they need roads. They need good roads in and out of their communities. And by helping them, and I know there are some areas right here in West Tennessee that I know need help, and I'm going to tell you that that will be a priority to me, to help with things like completing the mega site, with helping those in Lake County to make sure that they have the kinds of things they need, because they are a distressed community. And I'm going to focus on those rural areas and make sure they have what they need. The second thing is education. Now, look, we have been for the last 8 years telling everybody that they need to go to college, and there is nothing wrong with that. My family has gone to college, but we also have to recognize that maybe not everyone's path in life to success is through going to college. And so I believe what we have done over the years is taking out the vocational education, the career and technical education out of high schools has really caused a lot of people feeling like they're not worthy, and that whatever they have as their talent to give is not worthy enough. And so I think we need to put that back into schools. And in addition to that, what I want to do is in about the 7th or 8th grade, I want every student to take an aptitude test. And that aptitude test will help them to be able to see what it is their God-given talent. I run into too many young people that I say, what do you want to do when you graduate? And they say, I don't know. And I say, well, what's your next step? They said, I think I'll go to college. What are you going to study? Well, I don't know. Let's make sure that what they do leads them to success. And not only would it lead them to success, but it would help our job creators who right now need those educated workers, whether it's a welder or a plumber, or people that have those kinds of skills are very much needed. And then the final thing is, as a nurse, I could talk about a lot of different healthcare issues, and we have those, that's for sure. But the thing that I really want to mention is that we all know someone who has been addicted to opioids or other drugs. And I want to be sure that we are taking care of this scourge that has occurred here in our state. I've developed a law and order coalition where I'm asking sheriffs and DAs to help me to make sure on the legal part of this, on stopping these drugs from coming over the borders. We have 8 different counties that we're surrounded by, that we have law enforcement there, that we close down the pill mills, that we do prevention, where not only do we help young people understand what it means to get addicted to these drugs, but even the adults, because we have people who are getting 60 pills from their doctors, to help them understand that that's probably not in their best interest. And then finally, I think we need to help those that have become addicted to be able to recover and get back to work and get back with their families. Now, The final thing that I will tell you, those are 3 things that I'd like to fix, if there's something we don't need to fix, and that is Tennessee values. I love this state, and I know you love this state too, and you're in this state because you love this state. There's something really special about Tennessee. We're a place that knows right is right, wrong is wrong, God is God, life is life, and truth is truth. And I'm going to jealously protect that, because we've got people moving into this state that don't think that way. They come from California, and they come from New York and Illinois, and they're bringing their values with them that are different than our values. I believe we should be standing for our flag. I don't think we should have sanctuary cities. These are the things that I am going to protect jealously in this state, so that we continue to be a strong state using our Tennessee values. Listen, this is going to be a long run, and there are a lot of folks out there that have good ideas. But what I'd ask you to do is be sure you let me know about what your thoughts are. I don't know everything. I want to know what your thoughts are as I go throughout this great state from Mountain City to Memphis. I want your suggestions. I also ask and covet your prayers. If you will pray for all of the candidates, that we will be safe as we move throughout the state. And then finally, I'm going to ask you for your vote. I would consider it a great honor to serve as the next governor of this state, the 50th governor of this state. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight.
So I paused for a moment for Jimmy to come up and introduce me, but I guess I just got to do this on my own. So that's all right. So I'm Randy Boyd. I'm a candidate for governor. I was adding it up today. Today is my 15th day in Jackson and in Madison County since I started campaigning about 11 months ago. It's always great to be back. So many family and friends in this county. I always love coming back here. Of all the different times I've visited, I think my favorite time was about 3 months ago. It was in October. I was running across the state, 537.3 miles from Bristol to Memphis. It took us about 3 days to go through Madison County. It was one of the most beautiful times in Madison County. The fields were white with cotton. One morning, I noticed our singer was from Jackson Christian. I got to run with the cross-country team from Jackson Christian. And that evening, the day that I ran, or that morning, the day that I ran with them, we stopped at Hollywood Cemetery. And why is that important? That's where my grandmother and my grandfather were buried. And I got to spend some time and pay respects to them. The next morning, we started at the same spot and carried on. Jackson is a very special place to our family. We have deep roots in this part of our state. It's just always great to be back here. So that leads us to maybe a short biography. I know a lot of you in the room, but for those that don't know me, 7th generation Tennessean. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. My family is from West Tennessee. The first 3 generations are from Crockett County. The last 3 generations are from Obion County. I have my father here with me tonight, who grew up in Kenton, and I've been regaled of stories about how he claims, at least, and maybe I may have this as an opportunity for somebody to hold him accountable for this. He's been telling me ever since I was little that he was the fastest cotton picker in West Tennessee. So if anybody wants to challenge him, he's right up here in front. I also have my wife here with me tonight. Ginny and I are Christians. We belong to Aaron Presbyterian Church. We've been sitting on the same pew for the last 34 years. God's blessed us beyond our wildest dreams. The reason why we're running for governor, I believe this is the best way to give back to the most people. And so we're doing this for the people of Tennessee. We've been married for 33 years now. Jenny, if you could stand up. She's going to be mad at me for this. My wife, Jenny. She's the star of the campaign. The one thing that I love about campaigning, unlike other things I've done, we get to do this together. It's been a wonderful journey so far, and we're enjoying it. So other things you might want to know about Ginny and I, we have 2 children, a 24-year-old and a 29-year-old. I was at a meeting about a couple weeks ago, and like people always do, they say, well, should we call you Randy or should we call you Commissioner? And some people that really like me, they say, well, we should start calling you Governor. I said, no. I'm excited that I have a new title, and I'm hopeful that you guys will have the opportunity to call me this, hopefully in the next 6 weeks, and that's Grandpa. Ginny and I are going to have our first grandchild on April 7th, a little girl, so we're very excited about that. If I get no other title this year, it's going to be a good year. I'm passionate about education. My dad grew up picking cotton. When it time for me to go to college, he said, son, I can give you a job in the factory, but if you really want to go, you can run injection molding machines on the weekends and pay your way through. He did that. It was the best blessing I ever had. Gave me the value of work, gave me the opportunity to pay my way through the University of Tennessee. I was the first one in my family's history to graduate from college at age 19, not because I'm smart, but because I'm cheap. When you're paying your way through, it's just cheaper to graduate early. And so that started a lifetime passion about helping other young people have that same opportunity to be able to get a better education and a better future. I'm an entrepreneur. Started my first company at age 23, which failed quickly. It's good to get a failure out of the way early. Started a second company that led to a third. Led Ginny and I betting everything we owned on this one little idea called an invisible fence. Turned out to be a good bet. Today we have 700 employees, 4,600 products, and have offices in about 6 countries around the world. I'm also an entrepreneur when it comes to nonprofits. I've been involved in Boy Scouts. I've been a Boy Scout master. I'm a big brother and big brothers, big sisters, and a lot of different things. But a few years back, 10 years ago, I was able to start something called Knox Achieves that allowed young people to go to technical college to get those technical skills, and community colleges free of charge. As a Boy Scout, it required them to do 1 day's worth of community service each semester, and we matched them with a mentor, somebody like yourself, to be able to make sure that they were successful. That program led to something called Tennessee Achieves that helped us offer the same program in Madison County. Worked with your chamber about 8 years ago to make the same program here. Then Governor Haslam asked me to come to work in government. And I've had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur in government as well. My first stint with Governor Haslam was as a special advisor on higher education. We were able to create a vision for the state called the Drive to 55, getting 55% of our population something beyond high school. Doesn't have to be a 4-year degree, but some skill that will get them a better job. And also we were able to create something called the Tennessee Promise, something that's the envy of the country, a program where every kid now can go to technical college and community college free of charge forever. And then finally I got to come back as an entrepreneur in economic development. We did the normal things. We brought 50,000 new jobs to our state and $11 billion in capital investment. That's the normal thing. But I got to partner with Jay Templeton, Commissioner of Agriculture, and our Commissioner of Tourism, Kevin Triplett. We created the Governor's Rural Task Force to help those rural communities that are distressed. In the state of Tennessee, we have 19 distressed counties. Many of them are your neighbors: Haywood County, McNairy County, Hardeman County. Jay's from McNairy County. And I remember one time we were on a stage talking about all the initiatives that we were doing to help those rural communities, like broadband, like agriculture and tourism. And a really important part, and I see Ben Ferguson here that heads up entrepreneurship in Jackson. A really important part is entrepreneurship, helping people in these small rural towns create their own business. And I remember Jay one time said, you know, the people that are going to make the difference in McNairy County, the people that are going to make McNairy County successful already live there. We just need to give them the tools and the opportunity to make that difference. And so that's what I hope to do. As the next governor of the state of Tennessee, I want to make Tennessee, with your help, the state of opportunity. Opportunity for a better education, opportunity for a better job, and opportunity for everyone. I've got very specific goals on each of them. I'll share some that affect this particular region. So opportunity for a better education means making sure that every young person has the opportunity to get those technical skills or whatever skills they need to get a great job. The ultimate test is the test that lands them a great job. In Jackson, you guys already have a concept. You're far ahead of many other counties. It's called the McWhorter Center at Jackson State Community College. It needs some funding, it needs some support. It's going to need many of you to help support it. But that particular center, when finished, will be able to provide those technical skills, not just for people in Madison County, but people all over this region. As governor, I promise, talked to Kyle Spurgeon just today, so I promise as your governor, we will get that center done and quickly, because that's going to give us the workforce we need to provide the economy and the future that West Tennessee deserves. The second thing is opportunity for better jobs. There's a lot of things we could talk about, but very specifically to this area, we're going to finish the mega site and we're going to land a major OEM there. I've been passionate about that for the last 3 years. I can tell you, I know there were some things in the news about, well, the thing's not finished yet, but I was just checking with some people that had just recruited Nissan. You know, when Nissan actually moved to Middle Tennessee and transformed Middle Tennessee, it's probably the catalyst that made Middle Tennessee what it is. They didn't even own the land, but they got it finished in time. We are ready to sell. We're ready to sell now, and as soon as I get in office, we will be back on the road selling this site. At the same time, we got some work to do. We still have some infrastructure to finish. We're going to get that finished with Representative Eldridge and others' help. We're going to finish that. This is going to do for our part of the state what Nissan did for the middle of the state, and I can't wait to get back on the job and get that done. And then finally, opportunity for everyone is about helping those rural communities, helping McNairy County and Hardeman County and Haywood County, and all those distressed counties around our state. It's going to take all of us, but I'm confident that one day we will get that done. So I'm hopeful one day, working with you, we will be known as the state of opportunity. I don't know about you, but I've traveled around the world, around the country, and it's kind of frustrating because when you tell people you're from Tennessee, usually, what do they say when you say you're from Tennessee? The usually thing, when I'm in Memphis, everybody likes to say, oh, home of Elvis Presley. Sometimes. Unfortunately, if you're from Moore County, you like this. But they'll usually say, oh, Tennessee, home of Jack Daniels. Nothing against Moore County and their product. It does a lot for that community, but I just wish we could be known for something else. And I dream one day in the very near future, you'll be able to tell people you're from Tennessee, and the first thing they'll say is, oh yeah, Tennessee. Yeah, that's that state of opportunity. That's a state where everybody has the opportunity to get a really great job. Everybody has the opportunity to go to technical or college for free and get the education they need to get those jobs. And the best part about Tennessee is they're not leaving people behind. In other states, people are leaving the small towns. They're going to the big cities, and the small towns are dying and decaying, but not in Tennessee. In Tennessee, places like McNairy County and Brownsville and Haywood County are having a rebirth. They have broadband, they have jobs, they have infrastructure, and so people are actually moving back. Just in Henderson and Chester County is a great example of Gig Main Street, where I know a company that moved actually from Silicon Valley to the main street in Henderson and Chester County, because why wouldn't you? If you can do business anywhere in the world, why not do it in rural Tennessee? That's the dream that we have. I hope you'll join me in that dream. I look forward to serving you as your next governor. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Thank you.
Well, good evening again. My name is Beth Harwell, and I currently serve as the Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives. It is so good to be with you all this evening. Very quickly, I'm originally from a very rural farm area up in Pennsylvania, the Amish country. I grew up Church of Christ, and my parents wanted me to go to a Church of Christ college, and so at a very young age of 16, I came down to Nashville, Tennessee, and it has been home ever since to attend David Lipscomb University. I went on to my graduate work at Vanderbilt and ultimately ended up teaching at Belmont University, a Baptist school there in Nashville. I went on married Sam Harwell, who is a 7th generation Nashvilleian, and he's Presbyterian. So let me think here. I went to Church of Christ College, I taught at a Belmont Baptist college, and I married a Presbyterian. I think I've got all my bases covered. What do you think? For good shape. Well, I've enjoyed serving as Speaker of the House. And it is a time, honestly, when I think our state has experienced its most successful and boldest initiatives. Issues of reform have taken place in the great state of Tennessee. And when I became Speaker, I came before my General Assembly and I said, before you vote yes or no on any piece of legislation, I want you to put it through a litmus test. And that litmus test consists of 3 questions. And very briefly, here they are. Number 1 question is, does it increase the size of government or not? We believe in limited government in the state of Tennessee. When I became Speaker, I said, we're going to limit the number of bills that are introduced every year. I cap how many that can be introduced. You know why? Bills turn into laws, and laws turn into big government. I have traveled this wonderful state many, many years now. As I was state party chairman for 4 years, I've been Speaker for 7 years. I've been in all my members' districts. And never once have I had someone come up to me and say, Beth, please pass more laws regulating my life. I really want that. Never once has it happened. So we want to keep our government very limited, which allows us to do the most critical thing, the best gift we give to you as taxpayers. We balance our budget every single year. Did you realize that we are the 3rd lowest tax state in the nation? We're the lowest taxed in the Southeast. And here's the best gift that we give to your grandchildren. We are the lowest debt state in the nation. Isn't that wonderful? Compare that to what you see in states like Connecticut and Kentucky and Illinois. It's remarkable. This past October, we went to New York City to go before the bond hearings. The governor wasn't able to attend the first day, so he asked me to fill in for him. And I was really nervous. I prepared. I knew that budget backwards and forwards. All my cheat sheets were out there. I was ready to go. And I was very nervous. And about 30 minutes into the presentation, I just took a big breath and just a sigh of relief. You know why? The financial house of Tennessee is in great order. We walked away with that again with a AAA bond rating. We're one of 12 states that enjoys that. When I became Speaker, the Treasurer of the state came to me and said, Beth, if we don't reform our pension program, we're going to wake up with a mess on our hands. Look at other states. I said, all right, let's do it. We bit the bullet, thanks to Jimmy Eldridge, thanks to Annie Holt. We did what was necessary to do. We made our pension program more like what you'd see in the private sector. We're one of 5 states that fully funds its pension program. Now you can say to me, well, that's all a bunch of numbers. But you know what? If you don't have your financial house in order, nothing else matters. Which leads me to my second question that I always ask my members to say. Does it make it easier to own and operate a business in the great state of Tennessee? We want to be known as the most business-friendly state in the nation, and we are well on our way. Last year, we started more businesses in Tennessee than any other state in the nation. And it's because since I've been Speaker, we have reformed our unemployment and worker compensation laws. Thank you, Jimmy Eldridge, for chairing that committee. That's a tough committee to chair. And we did it, though, and it made a difference. We've created a stable legal environment for businesses to flourish here in our great state. Could we do more? You bet. And just this coming year, I've introduced, along with my Chairman of Finance, a bill that I think is going to be influential, which is going to lower the franchise and excise tax for small businesses. We want to be the startup company, and we're well on our way. And I will say also, when I became Speaker, something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. I introduced it when I was just a member and wasn't able to get it passed. But when I became Speaker, I said, by golly, we are going to eliminate the inheritance and gift tax in this state. And we've done that. So now not only is Tennessee a great place to work and live and raise your family, it's now also a great place to retire and even die. This is the place. And then third and finally, I will say to you, I ask my members to always ask this question. Does it continue to move us forward in education reform? As you know, I come out of the academic world, and that is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. There was a time when we kind of were embarrassed where we were academically. Not anymore. The national report card from last year said that Tennessee was the fastest improving state in the nation when it comes to test scores. Our teachers are doing a tremendous job, but thanks to the General Assembly, we have set high standards and accountability, and it is working for our great state, because we know that is the key. To improve the quality of standard of living for all Tennesseans, we have to improve the quality of our schools. This is a wonderful, blessed state. But it has not happened by accident. We have worked hard in state government to make this the best state in the nation in which to live. Thank you so much for letting me be with you today. I look forward to hearing and listening from all of you. And thanks for having me this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. This is a wonderful dinner. We go to a lot of these, and this one is certainly managed well and attended well, and y'all are to be congratulated for putting it together. I'll give you a brief introduction for those. I know many in the room, but many I don't. I am a businessman. I run an HVAC and plumbing and electrical business of about 1,200, mostly plumbers and pipe fitters and welders and electricians. Company's called Lee Company. My grandfather started it. My family's been in Tennessee for 220 years. I'm a cattle farmer, livestock producer. My family's a 4th generation ag producing family, so we raise Hereford cattle. We have about 400 Hereford cattle. We actually drive every Tuesday to Paris, to Yoder Brothers, and where we take a load of calves, and my 84-year-old grandmother sells meat, sells meat out of the back of a truck at farmer's market every Saturday. So we're a farming family, and I'm a conservative. I do, like so many here, believe that smaller government is always better government, that there are rights that need to be rigorously defended, like religious liberty and the Second Amendment and the right to life that begins at conception, and that God gave us that right. So I'm a businessman and a cattleman and a conservative. Most importantly, I'm a follower of Christ. It's the most important thing in all of my life. And I'm a guy who learned years ago, in part because of a real tragedy in my life that God used to change my perspective forever, that there are very few things that matter to me. And I want to live my life in service about those things. It's what caused me to get involved in the inner city, mentoring a young man once a week in the projects, that developed a passion for me for education. And I got involved in some public policy work around that. It's why I mentor a guy coming out of prison through a prison ministry for many years. And I got passionate about recidivism and sentencing reform and did some public policy work around that. It's why, because of my love for small business, I led an effort for tort reform and did public policy around that. So I touched the government in 2 or 3 places over several years, and I realized that, you know what, the government is out of touch with me and my business and farming and the community. And we know that. I mean, that's why people talk about vocational technical education. I've lived it for 30 years. Our education system has abandoned vocational technical education, and it's why a company like mine that was chosen as the best company to work for in Nashville last year, of all companies, can't fill our jobs for skilled tradesmen. It's why we created a school 10 years ago in our company, not recently, but 10 years ago, that has run 1,000 people through that program. Our government is out of touch. That's why the mega site is 10 years and not finished. That would never happen in the private sector. We're doing a 45-story building in downtown Nashville right now. We know exactly when it'll be done and exactly how much it costs. And that's exactly how it's done in the private sector and not in government, because government's out of touch. And we all know that. The more I realized it was out of touch, the more I thought to myself, I wonder if a guy like me, who's had a life of executive leadership and a life of agriculture economy and the life of serving through nonprofit world, leading nonprofits, could I serve this state in the highest executive position possible? Not only did I decide that I could, but I really think our founding fathers envisioned that when they framed a government of we the people, where people like you and me actually come from the outside with fresh ideas and with practical ideas and solutions to things, with private sector solutions, with nonprofit passion. Bring that from the outside into government, which is ineffective and is slow moving and is out of touch. And so not only could I, but it would be possible, and that's why I decided to pursue this endeavor. We have made a lot of progress in this state, and there are a lot of things going in the right direction, but many are being left behind. Our rural communities have been mentioned many times. That's why I drove a tractor from Mountain City to Memphis, off of my farm, right through Jackson here, stopped at Woolfolk Farms, because I'm a product of rural Tennessee, and I'm deeply concerned about that. We have 19 poverty counties. 5 years ago, we had 18. What we're doing isn't working, and we need to have Tennessee, more than ever, needs new ideas to bring about the change we need. Our education system in the bottom half of states in America. And while we do put a lot of people in college, we got 4 out of 10 kids that aren't going to college, and they're being left behind. We need that more than ever in Tennessee. And I'm a guy who believes strongly that the voice of the faithful in this state has been made to feel increasingly unwelcome in the public square. And that is a grave mistake. People in this state with deep values and faith should not be afraid because of political correctness. We need that more than ever in this state. My wife and I, Maria, who's with me here today, we know that we have traveled to every county. This is a remarkable state with remarkable people in every corner. There are a lot of remarkable things going well. But there are some things that are not being done well. I am, however, a guy who really has a great deal of hope for this state. On the RV that some of you saw out there, Maria and I put a scripture reference, Psalm 71:14. It says, and we put it on there to remind us. And in my life, there were some really hopeless days. But we put it on there to remind us that for us, we have great hope for where this state can go. Not only for how we can help to make this state a better place for every single person that lives in it, but actually how Tennessee can lead the nation. I really believe that it can. Hope is not a strategy, and I'm developing a strategy for that. but I have a great deal of hope we can. So I would be honored to serve you as a servant leader, to serve you as we lead this state and it leads America. Thank you so very much.
Gosh, I would have been awfully disappointed if I hadn't have gotten to speak with you all, because Union College is really special to me. I think I made history, and I still haven't been recognized, nor has Union College, because in 2012, when Rick Santorum was running for president, he was told not to come to Tennessee. His national chairman, Mike Biando, called me and he said, well, we're not going to put any money in Tennessee because Governor Romney is putting millions in Tennessee. But they called and they wanted to know if I would be the state chairman. I'm Kay White, and you know what? I was ready for that. And you know why I was? Because I have raised 9 children, 5 of my own. My sister died at age 35. She was very sick for a long time with kidney failure, diabetes, the very worst kind. I took her 2 children, and then I had a little Sunday school girl who'd been in foster care, and back then, foster care ended at age 18, and because of her mother's life of ill repute, maybe we should say, she was 4 years behind in school and had no funds. And she came to my house, and there I had 7 children at the time already. I had graduated one of them, a niece that had come to live with me, who's a different situation. And she said, what do I do? And I said, well, where's your clothes? And she said, well, my little friend brought me over. I thought maybe you could help me get a job. With that, she went out and brought a little brown paper bag in, and that's all she had. I want to see that foster care people, parents that call themselves parents, are real parents. I took that little girl in. I saw that she graduated, saw that she got a job, even co-signed and got her a little used car. And I've worked hard. I paid my dues, and I was ready to work for someone I believed in for our country. I came to Union College. There were 3 young men here at Union College that believed as I believe. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. They joined in and they worked 4 counties. I don't think they missed a subdivision. There might have been some homes back off the road. And still occasionally one of them will call me. In fact, during this last race, one called me from North Carolina, and he said, Miss White, if you're going to help Rick Santorum again, I said, I'm not, because his time was then, not now. I love him, but I think his time has passed. And he said, oh, shucks, I wanted you to come to North Carolina and work with me. And that thrilled my heart. He's over there doing his graduate work. He may be finished by now and working, but I was so proud that they haven't forgotten what I feel that I helped to teach them. And then in this past election, I started out with Ted Cruz, loved Ted, met his father. You know why I liked him? Because of his boldness, the sock it to me. And I've got a lot of that in me. Someone said, you're a little bit like the female Trump, and I said, oh goodness, I just don't have his salty language though, so I don't care to accept the boldness though, because I tell it like it is. I don't start something that I don't finish. There are people that will go before you, they'll go all across this state, And they will promise you, you know that with what went on in our last administration. I stand before you because I'm from East Tennessee, just like you're from West Tennessee. We're here, and they're there. And if I'm not elected and one of the other people are, I hope they don't forget that there are 3 parts of Tennessee, y'all. And let me tell you, in East Tennessee, in Cocke County, and I have preached this hoping Randy and Beth, some of them that are real close friends with the governor, will go back and tell him to get T-Dot up there, because there's one little lady that came to me and she said, "Oh, Miss White, every time I start to go across the only way into this large residential area where I live, there's a bridge and it's about to fall." And she said, so I pray real quick and then I mash on that gas and I charge across. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's kind of bad, you know. But we need to remember there are 3 parts of this state and they forget us once they're elected. The mega site, I'm going to tell you, that's a shame whoever started that and didn't finish it 10 years later. You all that say you're going to finish it, they're telling me that it's going to take $70 million. Now, I'm a person that likes to inform you. I'm going to inform you that 42% of the total income of this state comes from the federal government. Did you know that? Most of you didn't. You might have heard a little bit we get. Take that away. If we were to get in war or something like the government shut down, it stayed down a long time, they couldn't send us that money, we're going to be in hard shape when we've made all these promises and grants to this one and grants to that one. I want to look at that budget. I want to see what has been put in that budget that we didn't need, because the present governor has already raised it $8 billion in 7 years. Go online and look what he wants to raise it more. I'm not for that. I'm for helping lives. I'm for letting you keep more money in your pockets. As Marsha or someone said earlier, I'm for less government. You know, they've taken away everything but the shirt off our back almost. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. I know what it is to lose. We had a 485-acre farm, and I raised my children and all those other children there. You don't know what it is when the interest rate goes to 13%. Folks, I had to give up my home. I lost everything but my furniture. But you know, I'm not a loser. And I'm not a person that gives up. And you know why I'm not? Because I have faith. And when I came on the grounds of this college, I could feel the presence of God. Everywhere you drove, there were scripture and Bible verses. And what our honoree tonight said reminded me so much of the way I've always been. It's not about winning. It's about not giving up. And the news media said, well, you don't have a lot of money. Are you going to stay in or are you going to drop out like one of the other candidates? And I said, well, that's not in my vocabulary unless I get sick. So if you hear me dropping out, you'll please send me a sympathy card or come see me, or maybe a rosebud. You'll know I'm probably in the hospital, because I don't give up. I'm a fighter. I fight for what I believe in. And then when I dropped off of Ted Cruz's campaign, because I could see that he was a great man, but those at the top were not doing what they were supposed to do. They had no organizational skills at all, folks. Very little. And Darren Morris, and I see him over here, and I just didn't see him earlier. I would have given him a hug. But Darren Morris called me and he said, Kay, would you be interested in taking over East Tennessee for Donald Trump? I did that. And as I said, he's got a little bit of salty language, but he's bold. And what he's already done in 1 year has outdone what the other administrations have taken. Well, let's just put it this way, they finished and didn't get anything done that amounted to anything or that helped you, the people. I'm about helping we, the people. And I was proud to be a delegate for Donald Trump. I even got to go to his first dance, and I told some of the people earlier, everybody knew I was from Tennessee, and I didn't have to tell them because it was freezing cold, and I had on a mink coat and had to walk 8 blocks to get to that first dance. It was such an honor to be invited to get to observe that, but doggone, my feet hurt, and I just pulled my shoes off and went barefooted. And when people, they kind of look at me and I say, "Hi, I'm from Tennessee," and just kept walking, because we're kind of known for being hillbillies around here. Yes, I was born here. I was raised here. I love Tennessee. And you can bet your bucks, if I'm elected, I'm going to put commissioners in that are going to love it like I love it. They're going to get something done. And I just want to say, I love you. He's saying, whoo. So I have to hush. But I will tell you this as I end. I am a mother, grandmother, and a great-grandmother. But first of all, I am a Christian, constitutional conservative, and I want to serve you. There's some brochures on the table. If you will read them, you'll know a little more about me, item by item. I've broken it down. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless Union College.
Anybody else running for governor? Okay. Thank you, Steve Maroney. I want to, first of all, thank everybody for letting me be here with you this evening. And I got to tell you earlier, Mr. Chairman, when you recognized and all the elected officials stood up, I think that shows the testament of the Madison County Republican Party. And for all the former chairmen who are here, of course, we've got Mike, who is our current chairman, and Gary Deaton and Genie Todd and Steve Maroney, Jimmy Eldridge. I know that you have to be proud for all the hard work that y'all have done, and we applaud you. Thank you very much. I do want to also recognize a group of people who don't get the recognition that they should. They work hard. They keep their feelings to themselves, but the fact that these judges come here and support the Republican Party, and they do that each and every year, judges, thank you very much for all that you do for the state of Tennessee and for Madison County. Thank you all. And if I could, point of personal privilege, I'd like to recognize the Speaker of my House, and that's Roberta Kustoff. It's absolutely true. Well, if I can, few things that are happening in Washington, and to briefly recap the last year, which has been a whirlwind. And it starts with what happened early this morning. I've got to tell you that the way we as an American people fund our government is crazy. It is just crazy. In the House of Representatives, before the beginning of the fiscal year, the House of Representatives had voted to fund each and every aspect of federal government. Those bills went to the Senate, and they just sat there. So we have had to pass, as of today, 5 continuing resolutions to fund the government. It makes absolutely no sense. But the part of the government, in my opinion, that's been the most drastically affected has been the military. Now, another point of personal privilege, I went to Afghanistan with a group of members of Congress for Thanksgiving. And I went there and I thanked those young men and women who were serving in harm's way in Kabul and Kandahar. Served them Thanksgiving dinner and Thanksgiving lunch. And I told them, and I believe this, that it doesn't matter what anybody's position is on the mission in Afghanistan or the war in Afghanistan or any other mission that we're involved in, that the people of the United States of America respect you. And I believe that. And we have an obligation to make sure that those men and women in the military are adequately funded. They haven't been. And a lot of that goes to the past 8 years under President Obama. Last year, more men and women in the military died in training exercises than they did in combat. That's because we didn't fund them the right way. They didn't have the right equipment. They didn't have enough ammunition. You know that half of our planes in the Navy can't fly because of deferred maintenance and what have you. Our Army has gotten smaller. Our Navy's gotten smaller. Each branch of our military has gotten smaller over these 8 years. And the one thing that Secretary Jim Mattis asked us to do last week when we were at a Republican meeting was to fund the military, not under a continuing resolution, but to fund it. And he said, I want $700 billion for this year and $716 billion for next year because we've been so underfunded. And so early this morning, Steve, I hate to pick on you. I know you're looking at me and you're thinking, has Kustoff been wearing the same suit for 2 days? It's true. Because we voted after midnight, in the middle of the night, early this morning, to fund the government so that there would be no shutdown. There is nothing more that Nancy Pelosi wanted than to see this government shut down under a Republican president, a Republican Senate, and a Republican House, and we denied her that. We denied her that this morning. And we funded the military for those 2 years. The second point, we've had a lot of great presidents. I'm going to tell you that I don't know that there's been any more pro-life committed president than Donald J. Trump. And I'm committed to supporting his pro-life agenda. About 3 weeks ago, hundreds of thousands of Americans came to Washington for the 45th annual March for Life, a gathering of those people who stand up for the unborn. It was really an incredible gathering. And I was proud that President Trump was the first president to participate directly by addressing those members who had come there to march. I've also got to tell you that a group of students from Union University came to visit with me during their trip to participate in the March for Life. And as I heard from each member of the group, I got to tell you, I really filled up with pride. These were some, you talk about the next generation of our leaders, they're right here, and I'm very proud of them. I think probably every person in this room, every single person, believes that every single life is precious, and we have an obligation to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. And I'm proud to stand with President Trump on that issue. And lastly, I want to talk about something that I think everybody has heard about that we were able to accomplish, and that is tax reform. Big, substantial tax reform. Has not been done in 31 years, going back to 1986 with Ronald Reagan. People are already starting to see money in their paychecks. I was with a small employer a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know how many employees he has. But he said that his employees, he pays them each week, that in their net, the money that they're getting back after the withholding of taxes, that they're seeing an average of an additional $15 to $20 per pay period. $20 per week. It's over $1,000 just in money that's being saved as a result of tax reform. And I'm proud that there are over 300 companies, including a lot in West Tennessee, that because of tax reform are either giving a bonus, they're giving raises, they're expanding their businesses, or they're doing a combination of all of it, and it's all because of tax reform. Just 1 year after President Trump took office, more than 2 million jobs have been created. And ladies and gentlemen, unemployment is at its lowest rate in 17 years. I look at this screen at the seal of the President of the United States. And I've got to tell you, some of you have had the opportunity to meet him. I was fortunate enough, along with some other folks from our congressional delegation, and we got to be with President Trump, Commissioner Templeton, when he addressed the American Farm Bureau in Nashville. And I saw firsthand how real people respect and appreciate the President of the United States. It's an honor to work for him. It's an honor to work with him. And ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to work for you. And I appreciate all of you very, very much. Thank you. And with that, we have three great candidates who are running for the United States Senate to replace Senator Bob Corker. And I think even I can do this in alphabetical order, since there are three. The first candidate that you're going to hear from is Congressman Marsha Blackburn. Many of you are familiar with Congressman Blackburn, who represents the 7th Congressional District in Tennessee. She serves on the Energy and Commerce Committee and is a real leader in Congress. The second candidate that you're going to hear from is another great individual who did serve in Congress in the 8th Congressional District. He was my predecessor, Stephen Fincher, who served on the Financial Services Committee. And then our third candidate is Dr. Orlando Toyos, who happened, I don't know if he still is, but at one time was the team eye doctor for my favorite basketball team, the Memphis Grizzlies. So with that, let's please welcome up our three candidates for the United States Senate, Marsha Blackburn, Stephen Fincher, and Dr. Orlando Toyos.
What a fantastic evening. And we are going to have a great governor. Didn't you enjoy that forum with all of the governors and hearing their stories? And Mike, great job pulling everybody together, having that point where we can kind of have a rally point and get ready for this year, I think is fantastic. This might look like an old, worn out, old-timey cookbook. And for many of you, it would be, but to me, this is a symbol of change. When I was in college, I went to college on a 4-H club scholarship, attended Mississippi State University, and got some bulldogs back there. And as soon as I got there, I realized that scholarship was not going to pay for everything I needed to pay for college. So I was going to have to get a job. Well, my brother sold books during the summers for the Southwestern Company out of Nashville. And I thought, this is a great opportunity. You can work on straight commission, work 80 hours a week, and make as much money as you can find doors to knock on and products to sell. I figured out, though, there was one problem. The Southwestern Company did not recruit women to sell books. This was in the 70s, so the first sale I had to make was to convince them to recruit me so that I could have that opportunity, my shot at doing something different and paying my way through college. Well, I sold books the first summer. The second summer, I was going to take women out with me. I was one of the very first women they ever recruited. And they said, well, you know what? We need to develop a product for women to sell to women. So we developed this cookbook. It's still in print today. And you know what I realized? I was able to affect change at a company. And I was able to affect change in the lives of a lot of my friends and open the door for them. And when people turn to me and they say, Marsha, You're a wife and a mother and a businesswoman and a public servant. Why would you want to go somewhere as dysfunctional as the U.S. Senate? And I say that's exactly the reason I want to go to the U.S. Senate. The Senate is totally dysfunctional. And I am going to the U.S. Senate to be a positive force for conservative change. That is exactly what is needed. And being a change agent, if you will, is something that I've become pretty good at. When I was in the state Senate, I led the fight against the state income tax. And thank goodness, our wonderful state legislators finished the job in 2014 by passing an amendment to our state constitution. We will never have a state income tax in the state of Tennessee, and we thank them for that work. When I went to Congress, I restored your ability to deduct the sales tax you pay every year on your federal income tax filing. When we needed to investigate Planned Parenthood, I led that investigation. I chaired that select committee. I issued 15 criminal referrals. And because of the work we did, looking at the relationship between Planned Parenthood, big abortion, and the entities selling baby body parts, today, the Department of Justice and the FBI are investigating Planned Parenthood, big abortion, and third-party body part sellers. And it's because of that work that we did and that I led in Congress. This week, led on something that's, I think, something you wanted to see. You've all heard about that hush fund that was used by some members of Congress to pay sexual harassment claims. And one of my colleagues and I were successful in legislation that we authored, putting an end to the sexual harassment hush fund, hush money fund, and making certain that the names are revealed of the individuals that have used that fund. So affecting change is something that I have done, and affecting changes in the Senate is something we need to do. You know, whether it was working in a dress shop or selling books or serving in public office, I learned early on that good business is all about the people that you serve. And that is something I think the U.S. Senate has lost sight of. They've forgotten who they're there to serve. They've forgotten who the customer is that they are calling on. And what Tennesseans want to see is a true conservative represent them in the U.S. Senate. They want a U.S. Senator who is going to stand with President Donald Trump and support his agenda. They want a U.S. Senator who is going to work tirelessly to make certain that Obamacare is off the books, every piece of it. They want a senator that is going to end sanctuary cities and is going to make certain that we build that wall on our southern border. They want a senator who is going to address infrastructure needs all across the state and is going to put the emphasis on getting high-speed internet into our rural communities. And that is something that we are doing right now. A little bit about where I grew up in South Mississippi on a farm as a part of a 4-H Club Farm Bureau family. We had two things we always were told to do: give back more than you take and leave things in better shape than you found them. We were very active in our schools, in our church, in our community. As I said, going to college on a 4-H scholarship, selling books. My husband, a Texan who was also selling books and worked as a sales manager for the Southwestern Company. Chuck and I have lived in Williamson County. We helped start the Young Republicans there. I became chairman of the Republican Party there, worked to grow that party and to make certain that we filled our slate with candidates. And when the votes were tallied, we took control of the County Commission and the offices in the Williamson County Courthouse. Chuck and I have 2 children, 2 grandchildren, and we are big believers in the American dream. When it comes to public policy, we have always said, keep the focus on 5 things: faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity. And if that is your filter for whatever the issues are that are going to come before you, then you're going to be on a pretty good track. Making certain that we protect those religious liberties, that we protect our families, that we fight for freedom every single day, that we fund our military, as David just mentioned, that we open doors and believe in the American dream and make certain that hope and opportunity are alive for all Americans. We have a fabulous opportunity to get this country back on the right track. Donald Trump needs partners in Congress, people that are going to represent the needs of their state and make certain that we all commit to making this great nation great again. Thank you so much. I look forward to visiting with you. I ask for your vote, and I ask for your support in this race for Senate. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Most everyone knows I think I'm Stephen Fincher, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate. Served 6 years in Congress. Retired in 16, had a family member, had a serious car accident, almost died, and so I had to make a serious decision about either staying in Washington or coming back home with the family, and the right decision was to come home. Nobody expected Senator Corker to retire. When he did, a lot of people came to us and said, you should think about running for Senate. I said, you're crazy. And they said, no, it's really important, it's really serious. And so we took some time and met and prayed about it, and took a week and went across the state and met with folks all over the state and listened to people, listened to their concerns and what's important and what kind of folks do we need in the U.S. Senate. And, you know, it became pretty clear. People are just wanting normal, real people to go to Washington and serve them. They're not wanting, no offense to anybody, we've had a lot of great speakers here tonight, but I had a guy walk up to me the other day, Jimmy, and he says, Fincher, he said, we know you're from Frog Jump. He said, over in Crockett County. He said, but, he said, you know what I like about Donald Trump? I said, no, sir, what? He said, he's a workhorse, not a show horse. He said, I want a workhorse. He said, I want somebody that's going to go up there and not be ashamed to move the embassy to Jerusalem. I want somebody that's going to go up there and fix immigration and stop kicking it down the road year after year after year. No offense to any members of Congress, the Senate or the House, but the reason things are happening in Washington now is because we have a businessman in the White House. You don't have a career politician in the White House. You've got somebody that knows how to get things done, folks. We have tried everything else. It hasn't worked. The Senate is very, very important because people in the Senate, just one person, unlike the House, can make much great impact on things that control our lives. Infrastructure, taxes, immigration, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, health care, all of these things are very, very important. Folks, Marsha and I are running against each other. She's conservative, I'm conservative. You're going to have a good choice in either one of us. But as I end, I'm going to be real brief tonight. I used to harass one of our preachers about going too long. And we're Methodists, and I'd always tell him, if you go over 10 minutes, we'll move you the first year. He lasted 3 years, and we got rid of him. Remember, as this campaign goes forward, do you want doers or talkers? Do you want workhorses or show horses? And the most important thing that we have to do, The Democrats aren't politically dead yet, folks. Do you agree? They're not giving up. The most important thing that we have to do, whomever wins this primary, is we have to come together and beat Phil Bredesen. That is a must. You're going to see the differences in Marsha and I as we go through this process. But the most important thing that we do, nothing else matters if Donald Trump does not have a Republican-controlled Senate. Folks, our agenda for the country and the betterment of our great nation goes down the drain. Remember that. Thank you all. I need your vote. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Dr. Rolando Toyos. I'm an eye surgeon, and I'm running for U.S. Senate. No offense to my partner there, Stephen, but one thing, I used to be a high school basketball coach, and the players used to come to me and go, "Coach, we're not getting any respect." And I said, you know what, you have to earn respect. Go out there and beat somebody, and then you'll get your respect. So there is another candidate in this race. Now, I'm excited to be here in Jackson. I actually started my career here 20 years ago. One thing that's been happening since I've been walking around town, people have been congratulating me. People are going, "Hey, congratulations." And I go, "Oh, thanks, congratulations." And I'm thinking that they're congratulating me because I'm running for Senate. But actually what happened is one of my staffers went to my Facebook, got to the About page, and clicked on that I was married. I guess I'd never done that. So everybody's congratulating me that I've gotten married. So I got a call from my wife, and she said, "Oh yeah, you know, everybody's congratulating you that you've got married today." So I have another anniversary that I'm going to have to buy gifts for that I probably will not remember. I need to have somebody remind me to do that. Well, we have 3 daughters, and they're teenage daughters, and they're all very successful. And when people ask me, you know, why I want to run, and the reason being is I look at them and they all want to be doctors, they all want to be successful, and they all are looking forward to a bright future. And I have to look at them and you know, I wonder, is the future going to be so bright? The way the country is going, are they going to have a brighter future as I was given the opportunity to have, or is it going to be different? One of the reasons why I voted for Donald Trump last year was he was going to be transformational, that he wasn't part of the swamp, that he had not been in the Washington, D.C. bubble, that he would not be influenced by private interest, and he's doing some things that are making the country great again. But as you can see, if he doesn't have other transformational people working with him in Congress, that he will not be able to get his agenda through. I was thinking, I'm a small business owner. I've had Toyo's Clinic for 20 years. We've got 5 clinics, several employees, several doctors. And as soon as he got the tax cut approved, I was excited. I wanted to see what it was going to do in our business. So as soon as we had the first payroll taxes in, and David was mentioning this before, so I called my office manager and I said, well, how did the payroll taxes affect our workers? And she said, you know, it's great, everybody got some more money in their paycheck. And the thing is, this is the thing that we take for granted, like when Nancy Pelosi says that we're just giving these employees crumbs. The first thing that she told me was, we have a single mother, and I won't mention her name, in our office, and she struggles to make ends meet. And she said, you know, she's going to get an extra $53 in her paycheck every 2 weeks, and now she's going to be able to do more things that she wanted to do. And you know, that strikes you right there, that actually what goes on in Washington can affect the people here in this room. The other thing that was very interesting is that she said, you know, our payroll taxes are lower. And I said, how much lower? And she told me, and we've been wanting to hire 2 more employees in our practice, but we were waiting just to see if we could make that overhead. And when she said the payroll taxes are lower, I said, okay, go ahead and let's hire 2 more people. So these are the direct effects of what happens in Washington to small business and to real people. Now, the one thing that, and this is the reason why I'm running, is that we can't be complacent. We're very complacent. We're very, okay, we got the tax cut, we've got to win, and now everybody's like, okay, well, there's nothing else to do. But there was major issues that Donald Trump was running on that still haven't been fixed. And why can't we be complacent? I have to give you a little bit about my history. My parents immigrated to this country from Cuba. And when people tell me, what are your politics, I tell them I'm very conservative. And the reason why is because what we were taught at the dinner table, and this is what Ronald Reagan said, is that where do kids learn their politics? They learn at the dinner table. When we were at the dinner table, my parents used to say all the time, he said, you know, do not listen to liberals, do not listen to progressives. As soon as you hear a politician tell you the government can take care of you, that is the road to failure. And we saw it in Cuba, you're seeing it in Venezuela now. When you tell somebody, oh, we can give you free health care, we can give you free education, we can give you all this, nothing's free. What usually happens is that these people become dictators, they stay dictators. Look what's happened in Cuba. Castro dies and he just gives his dictatorship to his brother, and it goes on and on. And what happens when you start thinking the government is going to take care of you? What do? They take your freedoms, they take your liberty. They start taking your freedom of press, they start taking your freedom of religion, and everybody's poor except that dictatorship that promised you all these great things. So once I got to college, the first person, and this was the first political speech I ever went to, is I saw Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan was talking, and I was going, oh my gosh, this sounds just like my dad. Everything that he's saying. Small government, get the government out, less taxes, strong military, and the number one thing that he was saying to me, and it was the number one thing that Trump was speaking to me about when he was speaking, was this is a great country. This is a land of opportunity. This is the land where you can fulfill your American dream. But it isn't the land that should be giving you anything. This is a land that only gives you an opportunity to be successful. You've got to fight. You've got to scratch. Sometimes when somebody says you're not part of what could win, you got to muscle your way in there and win despite all the odds. And that is the American dream. So I'm not looking for anything other than the opportunity. I'm glad you've given me the opportunity tonight. So Reagan was my first vote, and from then on, I've been a conservative Republican. But I've been really disappointed in some of the quote-unquote conservative Republicans, and this is another reason to spur me on to run for office. So let me just tell you a couple of things that I stand for. I am for the right for life and pro-life. I am for the second, and I'll protect the Second Amendment. But there's some things that were said during the election that need to come to fruition. And the number one on my list is we said that we would repeal Obamacare. And President Trump was elected. We have a Republican Congress, and that hasn't happened. As soon as I read the 2,000-page Obamacare, I told people this is the first step to socialized medicine, that they're going to be universal health care and they're going to take over medicine. And if you are Reaganites, you know exactly what Reagan used to say when he talked about the government getting into health care. If they get into health care, they will take over your liberty and your freedom. That's the first thing that you have to protect. And so here we are, Obamacare, and 12 years later, what has happened? We now have 75 million people on Medicaid. Let that sink in a little bit. 75 million people on Medicaid and CHIP. Remember what Medicaid was for back in the old days? Oh, you're down on your luck, you've lost your job, you're in hardship. Don't worry, we've got a safety net for you that we can help you. But now it's become like the #1 insurance that we're dealing with. This is not America. This is not the American dream. This is not liberty and freedom. This is what Reagan would be rolling in his grave right now if I told him there's 75 million people on Medicaid. So we can't be complacent. We can't just go, okay, yeah, that's fine. We have 75 million people on Medicaid. Immigration. This is a very important segment in why I'm running. So I am the son of legal immigrants. Sorry. See, that's one of those lines you practice and practice, and then, okay, just so there's no confusion here, I am the son of legal immigrants. And the thing is, if you had a conversation with my parents on what they had to go through to become legal immigrants to this country, they had to wait in line. They had to have somebody sign off on them that if for some reason something went wrong with them financially, that this host would take over, and it was a struggle. So you've got to understand when people who are trying to get this country legally and they're spending a ton of money and they're waiting in line, that when we say, okay, we can allow illegal immigrants to cut the line, they don't have to spend any money, and we let them through. So we have to decide, are we a nation of laws or not a nation of laws? So I'm not for any amnesty whatsoever. So we have this temporary protective service. So I'm all for helping people. I do free eye care all the time. I go on mission trips. I work for this thing called the Eye Care America Project. So if somebody doesn't have insurance, we give them free health care. But we have this thing called the Temporary Protective TPS. And these people go through hardship, and then they come over to this country under the TPS program. But now we have people, and what they're supposed to do, it should be temporary, that they should go back. You know, once their country is doing well, they should go back. We have people who are in the TPS program that have been here 13 years, 12 years, 5 years. They have no plans of going back. We've got to put the temporary back in the TPS program. The other thing, we need to build that wall. We need border security so that more, yeah, I'm getting waved at, thank you. I'm actually taking Fincher's time. He was short. No, I know you didn't mean anything. That's why I'm giving you a hard time. So the best argument for building the wall is that we're not doing the people of Mexico or below Mexico any favors by not building a wall. If we build a wall, instead of illegal immigrants crossing the border, what they're going to do is they're going to go, you know, things aren't good here, and we need to have a revolution, and we need to get rid of this terrible, oppressive government they're in. So we're not doing people favors, and you're not doing anybody a favor by saying, yes, let all the illegals come here. Because what it is, it's not spurring them on to change. And the best thing that we can do for them and for us is to build that wall. Birthright citizenship. So if you tell somebody that's a way to get citizenship and use chain migration, that's the way they're going to come. One of the biggest birthright citizenships that are happening right now is pregnant Chinese women coming here to the States, having their baby, and staying here. Now, a couple of speakers have mentioned the veterans. And instead of us, my brother is a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and we talk about this all the time. Instead of putting hashtags and saying, please stand and all this, we need some real reform here. Our veterans have one of the highest suicide rates, they have one of the highest unemployment rates, and they have one of the highest opioid addiction rates. If Reagan were here, he would declare war on what's going on with the veterans. And what Trump has done, declaring the opioids a crisis, is very important. I'm going to cut it short. I've got about 1 hour more to go, so if you want to see me at the end, we can talk longer. But in all seriousness, things have got to change. We're $20 trillion in debt. We're borrowing another $600 billion a year. I think John Adams said it best when he said, there's two ways to conquer a nation. One is by sword and the other is by debt. And we're getting there. So when I look at my kids and I go, you know, then they ask me, what's their future going to be like? I don't want to be the group and the generation that leaves them with this insufferable debt that keeps them from living their American dream. So it's toyosforsenate.com. If you want to follow us on Facebook, it's Toyos for Tennessee. Thanks for your time, and I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Scott Golden, and I have the honor of being the chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party. Before everybody gets away, I just want to say let's stand up and give all of these candidates a big round of applause for putting them out for us. Secretly, I wanted y'all to stretch. That's what I wanted. I do want to mention just a couple more candidates that are here, and I appreciate them, like all candidates, being willing to serve. Dr. George Flynn is here. Dr. Brandon Dodds Dr. Brandon Dodds right over here. Chris Hurt, who's running for the 82nd District, Craig Fitzhugh's seat in Crockett County. And my plus one, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my date for most White House events. Darren Morris with the Trump campaign, by the way. This time last week, Darren and I were with the president at Trump Hotel in D.C., and what an enjoyable evening. I also should mention, I know all the elected officials have been mentioned, but in Madison County, as most of you know, we have one more seat to take to make sure that we're all Republican. And that is Jody Pickens, our district attorney. Did Jody already? There he is. That is the last non-Republican seat in Madison County, in the Madison County Courthouse. So if Jody can make it through this week without running, folks, Madison County will be all Republican. And it shows it in the crowd tonight. So there are a lot of wonderful things happening at the Republican Party. As you can see, we have an incredibly talented group of individuals offering themselves for our benefit to serve for us at both the Senate and the gubernatorial levels. But between now and August, as we are all picking our candidates of who we'd like to support, we are getting ready for local elections that feature Republicans versus Democrats. And across all of our counties in West Tennessee, and I know I've seen everybody from Dyersburg to Henry County and everywhere in between, we are going to have races to try to make this state even more Republicans. Despite what the national media is saying, there are still Republicans to be had in West Tennessee. I know, is Sheriff Ballou still here? Yes, sir. There he is, right here. We got 12 hours until we make him the first Republican nominee for sheriff in the history of Henry County. 12 hours tomorrow morning. There is some exciting things going on in counties where we are going to be electing Republicans in places that they've never elected Republicans. So despite what's going on, what the media will tell you, Republicanism in Tennessee is still on the rise. But that being said, last week at the Republican National Committee, the whole week was spent talking about the blue wave. Folks, this is going to be the toughest political environment that we've experienced in 2006, since 2006. And I have become very good friends with the chairman from Virginia. And we talked about it, and he said, you know, Scott, he goes, we had great candidates, we had adequate money. He said, we just didn't see what was happening. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Virginia lost 16 state house seats. They went from a supermajority to a 50-50 tie in one day. And I, like you, have read the national reports where I said, well, it was Gillespie's fault. He was the gubernatorial candidate. He didn't know he worked for Bush, he was for Trump, he didn't know, he couldn't make it all work. Turns out that Gillespie got 100,000 more votes than what he got last time that he ran. He would have been a senator, he would have been a governor in the last elections. But what happened is that Republicans turned out at midterm levels, and the Democrats, because they hate Donald Trump, turned out at presidential levels. The chairman of Virginia told me, he said, I had everything except for time. We did not know it was coming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight because we know it's coming. We've seen our candidates. We've touched our candidates. It is time for us to start helping our candidates because we are facing a very, very tough environment. So that is the application for the evening. I mean, I know it's easy. I talk about it all the time, that the only reason why you speak to the choir is because you want them to sing. And we're here tonight. We're the ones committed and dedicated, but we've got to make sure our friends are involved. Because I can tell you that if we take the foot off the gas in the state of Tennessee, we will go backwards. It's happened in Virginia. It's happened in Georgia. It happened this week in Missouri. The Democrats do not like Donald Trump, and they will come out and vote against anybody with an R on their name. So that's the application for this evening, is to go forth from here and spread the Republican message. Be excited about what President Donald Trump is doing. Be excited about what our candidates are doing. I was very fortunate last summer. I got to see, well, as most of you, I debated whether or not to go to Nashville to see the solar eclipse. And I thought, well, the kids are in school. They wanted to stay here. I'll just stay and work in Jackson that day. And, I mean, it's a solar eclipse. We're at 98%. I'm sure it'll be the same thing, right? So like you guys, I had the glasses on. I sat out on the back porch. I waited and I waited and I waited, and it got smaller and smaller and smaller. And when it was just a little bit there, I kept saying, okay, here it comes. And then I looked at it again, and it had flipped to the other side. And I said, I guess that was it. It never got truly dark in West Tennessee. And my parents, of course, who made the trip from Atlanta all the way to Nashville to see it, called me and said, what'd you think? It was completely dark. Dogs were barking. And I said, no, I was in West Tennessee. It was still kind of light. It wasn't like I bumped my head or anything. But the metaphor was this, is that even in the darkest of nights, as long as there is a little sliver of sun, there is hope. And with the Republican Party, folks, as long as we are coming to these meetings, as long as we are supporting our candidates, it will never be truly dark, and that we will always be able to make an impact on this world. Thank you for what you are doing on behalf of the Republican Party. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for supporting us, and everybody have a great evening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm the last man standing. You've been a great audience, been a great night. Don't we have some great candidates? Don't you think so? Aren't they wonderful? I want to mention Genie Todd. I met Genie Todd in the 70s. She was in my house, in my living room. She sold me a set of encyclopedias. You remember that, Genie? Yeah. And look where you are now. I still got those encyclopedias, by the way. I've got a note here to remind everyone, the silent auction is over to the side here, some great things over there. We don't want to take them with you. We don't want to have to pack them up and send them back. Membership, if you're not a member of the Madison County Republican Party, you can be. We want you to be and hope you will be. So you can go back to the back there. It's only $40. If you're just a Democrat, it would probably be 15, but we're $40. That's man and wife and kids. Anybody you got, you'll take you $40. Appreciate you being here. If you'll all stand, I will dismiss. Precious Lord, we come tonight recognizing, Lord, that you allow anyone to run, you allow anyone to be elected, Lord, and you are the one who puts them there if they are nominated. Master, we thank you for who you are. We thank you for the life you've given us all, Lord, and I thank those tonight who was willing to lift up the name that's above every name. Lord, you're the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Lord, you've blessed us. You've given us families. You've given us a good community to live in. You've given us great law enforcement. Lord, you've given us a great country. Lord, I pray that we'll take care of it. Lord, we thank you for this. We thank you for loving us. Keep your arms around us, Lord, and keep us safe. We ask these things in your precious and holy name. Amen. Let's go home.